Joining us now to further discuss the lingering ASUU strike is National President, Academic Staff Union of Universities, Professor Biodun Ogunyemi. He joins us from our Abuja studios, and we'll also have in the studio here with us a fresh graduate from the University of Lagos Department of Law, Shalom Alugwe. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you.
Let's begin from Abuja. Professor, the federal government seems to have extended an olive branch. It has withdrawn the no work, no pay policy. How far or how fast are we getting to an agreement and, of course, seeing this strike finally put to an end?
Well, thank you. Good morning at the studio. Good morning, Nigerians. The issue of no work, no pay rule is not the main issue here. What we are talking about is how government will address the issues we have put on the table. And until they do that, we can actually not get started addressing the problems.
Okay. The point there is, when we talk about education, let me stay with you, Professor Ogunyemi. There used to be an education agenda. In the 70s and 80s, there seemed to be a dream where education should get to, and graduates or Nigerian professionals should get to. It seems that is not the agenda right now. Everyone's just working to earn money to survive.
Yes, we lost focus as a country the moment we started to plan our education. Our education has now lost steam. We have lost focus. We do not relate our educational goals with our national development agenda. And any country that does that will certainly miss it, because education is supposed to drive the developmental process. If you look at the national policy on education, which came into existence for the first time in 1977, the process of producing it involved all stakeholders and started as far back as the 1969 Curriculum Conference. At that conference, what the country planned to do then was to use education as the fulcrum for addressing social, political, technological, scientific, cultural, and other needs of the nation. What that tells us is that all aspects of our education must be planned so that we can have growth side by side with development. Now, what we have witnessed over the years is that government will just wake up and pronounce some universities, some polytechnics, some colleges into existence purely for political reasons. And that does not lead us to achieving our goals as a country. So any country where you have quantitative growth without consideration for qualitative needs, there will be that gap. Education cannot be used to achieve the goals of development. And that is where the disconnect is coming from. So in the 70s that you are talking about, no new university will come up unless there are plans on how they will be funded, how the developmental process of that university will evolve in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and so on. And that is why if you trace it backward, you can find that the University of Ibadan, which came into existence in 1948, was a college of University of London. And it was not until 1960, when we gained our political independence, that that university became a university. But what we have now, a government can just wake up and say we are establishing 9 universities in a day, as we had under the last dispensation. If you go to those new universities now, they are crying for survival because government brought them into existence without planning on how to fund them, how to equip them, how to get them staffed, and so on. So anywhere there's a gap between planning and goals, then what we are planning for is failure. And that is what we have been having over the years.
We'll be back with you shortly, Professor. Let's bring in Shalom Alugwe. She's a fresh graduate from the University of Lagos. What ASUU wants us to believe is the fact that the standard of education in our universities is quite poor and that we need to take a break to start again. Do you feel like an half-baked Nigerian graduate? What was your experience like? I mean, you have a certificate right now. Do you feel like, this is not it? I didn't get the kind of education that I should get.
Yeah, definitely. You know, comparing myself with my counterparts who schooled abroad, I know University of Lagos tried their very best, because out of all the universities in Nigeria, their lecturers seem to have some sort of credibility personally in their professions, and then they sort of introduce it into class delivery. So that way they were able to keep us safe, you know, sane, competitive. But generally, the experience was quite substandard, because there is a level that a Nigerian graduate is supposed to be able to compete on. And if you notice properly, so many graduates actually fall short of that. And with the whole federal government ASUU issue, I think it just lies, you know, in the value of education in the country. Education now is just about reading, writing, getting a good job, you know, being competitive in the labor market. But education is such a powerful transformative tool. And I don't know why the federal government, after, you know, making an agreement with ASUU in 2017, that even made ASUU to come to reaching the memorandum of action instead of understanding. So it is time for the federal government to now perform their own side of the bargain, and they're falling short. And I was thinking, this is the administration for change. If you're clamoring for change, change begins with you. So it was supposed to be a symbiotic relationship. Do your part, I'll do my part, scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. But now the federal government, it was very laughable when I heard about the no work, no pay, you know, circular. I knew that ASUU was not going to take that seriously, and I'm very proud that they did not, because right now ASUU is really dogged, no matter how rough it gets. After 1 year, you promised that this issue was going to be resolved in 6 weeks, and then it's over 1 year, and the presidency has not fulfilled their promise. They are not sober about it, and they are threatening. I think that's far from democracy.
So you agree with ASUU's decision to go on strike?
Definitely.
Yeah, but let me say with you, Shalom, from the students' perspective, do they really understand some of these issues why ASUU has to go on strike? Although there's supposed to be an agreement between the government and the lecturer unions, but somehow there's a face-off. So lecturers are going on strike and we are going home and all of that. But do students really understand and bond with these issues really on a daily basis?
Actually, students understand. But the thing is, as this strike lingers on, you know, students are actually hoping that in a short while it will be called off so they can complete their education, you know, they can fulfill their dreams in life. But usually when the strike goes on so long, the students actually lose interest. They just want the strike to be called off so they can finish up and be out there.
And leave the system.
Yes, and leave the system, because the students actually know that the ASUU is fighting for a good cause for them. ASUU involves students. There's no ASUU without students. The students are aware of the challenges and they really want it to be better. But you know, when they're the ones suffering, it's just like when two elephants are fighting, it's the ground that suffers. So a course that's supposed to be for 4 years is taking 5 years. A 5-year course is rounding off to 7 years. At that point, they don't really care what happens. They just want to get back to school, round off, and just leave.
Let's bring the professor back in here. Professor Ogunyemi, earlier we spoke with Comrade Usman Dutse, who is the national president of ASUU. And I raised the question of how potent strikes, you know, industrial action has been in the struggle for the Nigerian education sector. The last time ASUU was on strike, they're down to for over 100 days, whether we like it or not. Strikes have also contributed mainly to the challenge of quality education in this part of the world. Are you optimistic that this is the only tool that can make government act based on these agreements? Can you hear me, Professor? All right.
I guess there's some audio challenges there, but we'll put it up to the engineers who work on that so that we can have Professor Ogunyemi back to hear what he has to say. Yeah.
Earlier, you made mention of the fact that students just get tired of strikes. And, you know, I have seen universities, my alma mater was shut down for close to a year. And you know what that means when you enter school, you have dreams, you have goals. But there's a trend that I've also discovered, the fact that people graduate from school with certificates and then now start all over again. They start learning a trade, acquiring a skill, and you find out that their preoccupation in life is totally different from what they study in school.
Exactly.
What do you think this portends for us?
About learning trades for the students that are currently on strike, I'd like to commend those who are making good use of their time. Learning a profitable trade or a skill, I think it shows that you have, you know, focus and direction in life, and you don't want to waste your time. Now, generally, Nigerian youths are very zealous. They are super driven. And if there was a proper structure, this drive is supposed to be premised on good education. So that way, if the system was sane enough, that passion will be put into their education, and that will translate in successful careers. But when the system is not as great as it's supposed to be, what they do is, at the first or second year of university education, that zeal just wins off. So they just want to complete the process, and when they get out there, they begin chasing money. I mean, the street anthem now is, if you don't make money,
wait till again.
So it's more about chasing paper, chasing money than substance.
All right, Shalom.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, exactly. Now let's have Professor Ogunyemi back on now. There was two major meetings that you know, trying to negotiate and trying to resolve this between you and the government. And right now, we heard there wasn't an agreement at the end of the meetings. Where does ASUU stand now? What is the next move? And how are negotiations going moving forward?
Well, thank you. Your guest in Lagos said when two elephants fight, the grasses suffer. The same thing also applies when two elephants make love. The grasses also suffer because they agree to betray the cause. So that is what ASUU doesn't want to do. ASUU doesn't want to agree with government to betray the cause of students and the cause of Nigerians. So what has been going on with government is that the government has been talking around the issues. We have placed our demands on the table, and we expect the government to say, well, on demand one, revitalization, we are going to do this. But government has not come to that. On shortfall, we are releasing the fund at so time. Government has not done that. On outstanding and academic allowances, government has the facts and the figures. Now, when are they going to release the balance? On the issue of proliferation of universities and engagement of state governors, government has not told us what they are doing. So until we get to that point, that is when we can decide the next line of action. We believe the meeting is continuing today, and probably government will talk to the issue.
Well, Professor Ogunyemi, I'm afraid that we lost connection there. But then I would have loved to ask you about what you think. Okay, we'll get back to Abuja subsequently. Shalom, let us bring this to you. How do you expect Nigerian students to, you know, take advantage of this break right now? What exactly would you expect from them? There are some who are alleging that these are not good times at all, especially in an election year where, you know, the evil politicians make use of the youthful energy. What would you say to students right now?
Well, as cliche as this is, the strike usually comes up when students are preparing for exams or to kick off a new semester or a new session. So there's supposed to be a lot of academic preparation going on now. So I just want to say that, honestly, many students don't read during the strike. Generally, many students don't. So if we're taking an academic break now, I just want to encourage students who are at home, get something you love to do, makeup, you know, tech. Stay away from cyber scams.
Everybody's
stay
doing
away
makeup
from
now.
oh well, makeup is moving. It's a booming business. So yes, you know, stay away from cyber scams. Stay away from anything in between legal and illegal. You know, that's everybody has a passion in them. This is the time to harness those potentials while waiting, because you can't just drop out like that. We can't all just drop out like that. In 2018, you know, statistics have it that 1.6 million people sat for JAMB, and just 6% failed private universities. So it's like 94% of us are just home not doing anything. It's a very dicey period now because of the elections, and stay driven. Don't allow yourself to be used as an instrument to foster violence.
All right, let me stay with you while we wait to connect Professor Ogunyemi back. All right, Professor, we have him back in here now. Earlier on, you were talking about the, when you were mentioning this, the education agenda. Okay, I understand he's off again. Now, on the papers this morning, we read there was the headline that a Uniloring final year student commits suicide. And that was because he, from his result in CGP and all of that, he was already hitting 2-1.
Okay, 2-1.
2-1.
Class of
Okay.
But he was accused of his final project being a copy and a paste situation, plagiarizing previous work, and he failed his project, bringing him back to a 2-2, grade, and that angered him so much, and he had to commit suicide.
And he took sniper.
And he had to take
That's the
sniper.
fastest
Now,
one
the
now.
point there is, there seems to be so much emphasis on the grade people come out with. You were just coming out of the system. You had colleagues and all of that. Now, talk to us about that feeling of the fact that I need to make a 2-1, I need to make, first class and all of that. But that doesn't necessarily seem to be the yardstick for success in life.
You don't want to ask her what her grade is.
Okay, I wouldn't want to go there. I wouldn't want to go there now. But if she's at liberty, she can tell us.
Okay, so it is very evident that in the labor market right now, if you don't have at least a second-class upper, you don't seem to stand a chance. And it is arguable that so many people who actually have second-class upper and above cannot defend it, cannot compete with some people who may have had lower grades. That's arguable. But if every company that you wish to work in already put it there, it's so big there, 2-1 and above, and you check yourself, you are below, it puts a lot of pressure on you to strive to meet up with that benchmark while you're in school. And when you don't, for people who, people have different kind of personalities. So for people who are not innately strong, they feel they have let themselves down. They feel that before even getting out there, they do not have a chance. So that's why you notice that so many people do all sort of things to actually meet up with that benchmark. And for the guy, may his soul rest in peace, who lost his life, you don't know the kind of pressure he might have had from society, from his family. And just as he was getting there, his project drew him back and he just fell short. So it's not us, it's not the students, it's the system. The system, they have a standard and we're trying to meet up.
Shalom, I'm not sure you needed the 2-1 to be on the show this morning.
Exactly, All right, Shalom Alugwe, graduate of the University of Lagos, Department of Law. Thank you for talking to us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, and we also thank the National President of ASUU, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, Professor Biodun Ogunyemi, who spoke with us earlier from our Abuja studio.